So, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I think before we start, let's maybe take a moment of silence, and then we can start sharing or whatever. So just taking one moment of silence to bring the mind to the body. So, yes, would anyone want to share anything before we start reading the readings? Anything that comes to us, since the theme is a very broad one, human relationships and how they can be a path towards the yoga. So, we are taking it in that sense. So, anything anyone wants to share? Any questions, pressing questions, or any reflections? So, Mother and Sri Aurobindo have shared a lot on human relationships and how they are so unsatisfying. We see that that resonates, no? So, Sri Aurobindo and Mother, in many, many letters to the disciples who would have questions about, since we are all human beings and we fall into relationships, and most often than not, we try to fulfill ourselves through those relations, and we don't find that fulfillment there. And it's like very disappointing and frustrating most of the times. So, they have shared upon it that it's a wrong place to bank upon. Don't bank there because there you're not going to get what you are actually aiming for. So we see, I think, would be nice if some of us can share, their relationship experiences, but we see that our relationships are very dissatisfying, and we often get much disappointment rather than much satisfaction from those relationships. So the point is then how to use them as a path towards yoga, because they have a purpose, and it also has a purpose why they are so dissatisfying. That also has a purpose. So that's why reading Mother and Sri Aurobindo's words help us, because everything has a purpose. Human relationships also have a right place, and they are a path towards something higher, which is what when we read Mother's and Sri Aurobindo's words, we get to know. So before I get to the reading, and then we can of course share reflections, would anyone want to add on anything to what I just shared?
Namaste, Monica ji.
Yes, namaste Shamla ji.
I think the main issue is with any relationship, we have expectations. But everyone has expectation with every relationship, and 99.999% it won't be met. So I think that there comes the problem. And without we need to, I think we need to learn how not to expect anything. Maybe which is really difficult. Human psychology, or we are tuned to expect when we do this, or if she's my mother, she has to do something. If he's my father, he has to do something. Same way, friends, relatives. So what I feel is how to stop that expectation. Maybe that is the thing which we need to learn, and the most important thing I feel so difficult also. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yes. Anyone else wants to add on anything? Okay, so we, feel this pain, what Shamlaji shared. It's not easy. It's not easy when we have relationships to be loving and still be there with our loving presence, be unconditionally available, and yet do not expect. It comes not cheaply. We have to put effort and go through also a lot of pain and turmoil, that we reach a stage that we are there, not cold and indifferent, yes, with a loving presence, but again not expecting. So it is a sadhana in itself. So human relationships, for those of us who are into, because many of us are very mental minded, they're more in their mind, but many of us are also bhakti minded, so they're more in their hearts. So we start with emotional relationships, we get emotional, we get sentimental, so those of us are more probable to use human relationships as a path towards sadhana, those of us who are heart oriented. Because those of us who are mental oriented, they will have a different mark, which is a path of knowledge, the path of understanding the how it works in the mind. But those of us who get sentimental, who get emotional, that emotionalism right now seems like a weakness, but that's the path to bhakti yoga, devotion, yoga of devotion. So for example, what Mirabai, Mirabai approached Krishna in is a path of devotion. She placed only Krishna in the heart, and no one else could take that place. And everywhere she saw Krishna, said even in the poison that she's having, she's only seeing the divine. And that's why the poison is even not affecting. So again, each one, wherever we are, it seems that that's a path that we have to follow. For those of us who are more like heart oriented, and I would consider myself also more heart oriented, for us the path is the path of devotion. That you approach even relationships as path of devotion. So there comes a time when there are two true bonds in our relationship. There is a drop of love, and then there is a mixture of lots of emotion, expectation, demands. You see that all that mixture is not giving you anything. You see that it is draining you energy, and it is also spoiling the relationships, all these expectations and demands. So then in your wanting to purify yourself, we are ready to embark upon this journey where we are ready to sort out the mixture and let the pure love remain. So that's the path we are embarking upon, the path of devotion, and ultimately they all meet, because devotion is blind without knowledge. So ultimately they all meet, path of jnana, path of bhakti, and path of works, action. They all become one, but the initiation can be different. So I'll read a few words, if you allow, from Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and then we can take up reflections in between. So Mother talks about levels of human relationships, and keep relating in it your life, how we can relate in our practical experiences. So she relates that there are classification in our relationships. There are first physical contact, physical relationships, where for example I am born through a particular parent, so that's the physical bond I carry. I am tied or glued because of the physical bond. So physical contact, say, since it depends on the fact that we have a physical body, it inevitably occurs with those who have provided us with this body, like our parents, and with all those who are materially dependent on them. These are relations of kinship, like siblings, or cousins, or close knit relations where you are blood related. So these are physical relations. Then there are vital relationships, which are emotional relationships. Vital contact occurs between impulses and desires which are identical or liable to combine in order to complement and heighten one another. So I am like, you have a matching frequency of desires. So you have a friend who is also desiring to shop, for example, and you also want to shop, so you go along well very together, so you can go together for shopping. You have that kind of a relationship, so it's coming from mutual desires. That's a vital contact, vital relationship. Then mother talks about mental contact comes from similar or complementary mental capacities and affinities. So people who think alike, there are friends, with whom we can have a discussion, round table discussion, and we resonate over many many points, right? So that's thinking alike, again a mental relationship, mental kinship. Then mother says, then there is a psychic contact, which is soul to soul contact. Like you may not be related physically, you may not be related much, mentally or vitally, but there is a deep connection, a deep bond, that you have. That's the psychic contact, occurs between converging spiritual aspirations. So two of us wanting to walk on the path of sadhana or towards our higher truth, and thereby there is a contact or a relation. So this is psychic contact. So then mother says that normally, if the predominance of one category is not clearly established, and this can only happen when there is enough order in our being to organize it. So usually we are so mixed up, we are jumbled up, a bit of psychic contact, a bit of mental contact. So it's all jumbled up mixture like a khichdi, and there is not a predominance of one kind of relationship. Like it may be that because I am so sorted within, that all my relations are mostly psychic relations, soul to soul relations. That is also a possibility. But since we are so jumbled up within, mother says that it's not that one category is predominant, it's like a mixture that we have. And then mother talks about, very beautiful, I found it very beautiful, a few rare beings are close to us in all four modes of existence at the same time: physically, mentally, vitally, psychically. So you have a soul to soul connection, you have a mental affinity, mental resonance, you have an emotional bond, and you also are, say, close to each other. So a few rare beings are close to us in all four modes of existence at the same time. These are friends in the deepest sense of the word. It is on them that our actions can have most integral, most perfectly helpful and beneficial effect. So we often wonder that you're talking or giving advice or suggesting something else, somebody else, but the person is not that receptive. We see that, right? So this is where mother says that this is the place where your words upon each other would have the maximum effect. I'm sure we all have tasted such kind of a relationship, where we are one at various levels, and when we talk with each other, the other person also understands and you also understand. So that's a deeper bond that is possible in life. And then the secret of all relationships, mother says, only those who commune with the eternal essence within themselves and in all things can be eternally united. So when we wonder that why am I not finding a companion in my life, or we often wonder that why not to have a friend who can be our really like a guard, or where we can bank upon. We don't really find a person like that. And mother says that those who are walking the path of truth, so if you are also walking the path of truth, that person is also walking the path of truth, and there is a mutual resonance, they can be eternally united. And with Sri Aurobindo, we have many examples of their close disciples, like Dilip Kumar Roy, one of the very close disciples of Sri Aurobindo. And he said that this is not first time that we are meeting. We are battling for ages. Since ages we have been coming together. And he talks about his previous life, and he says that Dilip Kumar Roy was, in one lifetime he was Hector in Greek character, in Greek Troy, this story of Troy. We have this character called Hector, who is the prince, the elder one. And then there is the younger prince, who is Paris. Those of us who have maybe read the story of Troy. So he said that Dilip Kumar Roy was Hector. So he guarded Paris with all his, armor, and my younger brother and all that. And Paris, Sri Aurobindo was Paris. and ultimately Achilles was killed by Paris, not Hector. So that's the story, we have been going through ages, and relationships again are at different levels. So that was just a glimpse of how we have different kinds of relationships: soul to soul, emotional, mental, and the physical bonds of our family and relatives. Yeah, anyone wants to add on here? Yeah, so Reshmi has put something in the chat. I'm going to read it out. The basic human instinct is to control others' actions. Yeah. So we see that happening, we try to fix other people, we try to have a control and dominance over other people. And masters have said that it is coming from the inherent aspect that we all want mastery over ourselves. We want to be a master. We want to be a master of our thought. We want to be a master of our feelings. We want, because that is our destiny ultimately, all of us, when we more and more unite with our divine essence and take the charge of what is the thought that is crossing my mind. Is it worth following, not worth following? And when it's not worth following, you do not follow. So you're able to reject. So that's mastery over oneself. And it is because of this mastery that we are destined to have. That's why the distorted form is that you want to control other people. That's the distortion in our ignorance. But actually what we want is to have a complete control over our own self. And before having perfection in our own self, we can't control our other people or other situation. But parallelly both are possible, because we know that Sri Aurobindo, how he was doing sadhana in Pondicherry, and yet he was exerting control over world war that was happening, or freedom struggle of India. So when we begin to perfect our own self and commune with the divine essence within, slowly we also are able to exert changes in external environment, but not the other way around. So we will not be able to first, like, exert a control or have. Mother says that don't talk about any person if you can't change him, or if you have the power to change him, then do the necessary transformation. Like on our children, we have a little bit of control. Little children, they still listen to us. They are more pliable, flexible. So there I know that if there is a distortion I am seeing as a caretaker, I can also transform that distortion along with a little love and cajoling. But in most of the cases, adult cases, this doesn't work. So the work lies with our own self. And the more we perfect our own being, we see that that love and the power of transformation also has an effect on other people. So taking everything as my own journey, all the things or shocks that I get from outside is my own journey. That's the work I have to do within myself. So that puts things in perspective. You are not expecting, demanding, as Shamla ji was sharing, that it's very hard to leave this expectation. But we will come to that. We will have to leave that. So just a few words from again the repertory of Mother and Sri Aurobindo on why we experience this pain when we are leaving our expectations and demands. And Mother shares that our journey is from a desiring soul to the true soul. So what I think of, that this is myself, this is me, this is my expectation, this is what I want, this is my desire, this all is a false identity. But I am used to live like that. So when I am now leaving this, one can say it's like a coat that I am dropping off. This coat has become glued to my skin. because I've been living with it. I've been living with these expectations, beliefs, ideas, prejudices, my relationship, my person in my life. This is what I want. So this is a false identity that we have taken. So mother says that our very journey in this human life is to drop off this false identity. And when we are dropping off this false identity of expectations and demands, we see that it hurts. It doesn't come easy. It's hard to let go. We have seen that hard to let go. Oh, I'm not able to let go. How can I let go? There are insecurities around that letting go. There are fears around that letting go. So why? Because I'm so used to being that desiring self, that as if it is now sticking to me like a piece of skin. So when I'm letting it go, it hurts. Mother talks about this pain of letting go, and mother says that it pains you because you have been used to living it like yourself. This is myself. That's the only reason of discomfort. So it's like a good and auspicious discomfort that we have to go through. Just like in labor pain, mother has to go through a discomfort before the newborn is out of the tummy. So it's an auspicious discomfort. Mother knows that after this discomfort, the baby is going to come out. So just like that, each moment, whatever I see in me is limiting me, suffocating me and the other person in a relationship, that has to be let go of. Because we get to know whatever is suffocating, we get to know. If we are not choosing our highest possible thought or a feeling, we get to know that, although I am attached to this, but this is pulling me down. This will also pull the other person down. We get to know. So with our light of consciousness, choosing the highest possible, praying for the highest possible, and if right now I feel incapable, offering it to the divine, that may you make me capable. I am not able to do this, because many a times situations are hard. We are not able to do that. But if an intention is there, then we can put forward the intention to the divine that, see, mother, this is the case. I see that I'm not able to drop this insecurity or fear, but you know better, you deal with it. I don't know what to do with this. It's sticking too hard. So parallelly, I am showing it to the mother and also not following the dictate of that insecurity and fear, what it's trying to tell me. So there are a few aspects of true love, because love is a part of our relationships, that Thich Nhat Hanh talks of. Four aspects of love he talks of. So we can also listen to a bit of that teaching if everyone is okay with that. Shall I play it? Right? Yeah. Okay. So maybe that will give us a bit of reflection.
In the Buddhist teaching of love, we learn that there are four elements that can provide true love and happiness. And the first element is Maitri. Maitri means Maitri means friendship, brotherhood. The word Maitri comes from the root Mitra. Mitra means friend. L'amitié, la fraternité. When you love someone, you offer your friendship, your brotherhood. And friendship and brotherhood does not deprive him or her of his or her freedom. When you love, you maintain your whole freedom, and you help maintain the freedom of the person you love. You don't deprive him or her of his or her freedom. The offering of happiness.
So I think very important point, maybe worth noting, that the first element of love is maitri, which is friendship. And when we are in any relationship, doesn't have to be just a romantic kind of relationship. In any friendship, you offer maitri, your friendship. And in friendship, you are not making a bond of friendship. You are making the other person also free of yourself, and you are yourself also free. So yeah, going on.
In your relationship with the other person, ask the question that whether you have maitri to offer him or her. We are on an equal basis. By loving you, I retain my freedom. And by loving you, I respect your freedom. And that is maitri. That we translate poorly as loving kindness. There should be a better word. And a friend that does not understand a friend cannot really offer his brotherhood, his friendship. And that is why to cultivate maitri, you have to cultivate understanding. You spend your time with him or with her, with mindfulness, and you discover every day his need, his difficulties, his obstacles, his deep aspiration. And on that base of understanding, you offer maitri, happiness. And the second is karuna. Karuna means the capacity to understand the suffering and help remove it, transform it. The person you love has suffering in him or in her, have difficulties in him or in her. You, as someone who loves him or her, you should be able to identify that suffering, that difficulties, and try to help remove it. And the capacity of helping remove that suffering called compassion. Transforming suffering in a person you love, because you see the suffering in the person of your beloved one. And if you are not able to help him or her remove that suffering, you are not a real lover. And we used to translate karuna as compassion. The other person suffer, and you suffer with her, you share suffering. That is the word of compassion. But in true love, you don't have to suffer with him. You understand only. And your capacity of understanding help the other person not to suffer anymore. When a patient comes to a doctor, the doctor is supposed to be able to see what is wrong within the patient, what is the sickness, and the root of the sickness in the person. That is exactly karuna. And the doctor, after having identified the illness and the root of the illness, is capable of prescribing something for the removal of that illness. And the doctor doesn't have to suffer together with the patient. And that is why the word compassion is not perfect in translating. The Buddha also, he sit there, people come and cry with him, and he doesn't have to cry with them. He said, dear friends, I understand your suffering, but there is a way for you to go in order to. If the Buddha spent his time crying with Peter, he doesn't have any time left in order to help with the transformation and healing. So, in your relationship, ask the question as whether you have the element of compassion in your love. If you do, and then you are being very helpful, you are helping that person to suffer less. Your presence only helps that person to feel better. And your speech, your action, your capacity of listening deeply help him or her transform and remove the suffering. And that is the element called karuna. And in our relationship, we should be able to cultivate karuna every day. And the third element is called mudita. Joy. The kind of joy that is shared by both. If in your relationship there is only sadness, you make him cry and he make you cry, that's not love. True love should include joy. And you are able to enjoy his own joy, and he is able to enjoy your joy, because you are no longer two separate entities. You are one with the person you love. And that is why when you see that person happy, you feel very happy. And when you see that person unhappy, you are able to do something in order to help. You consider his happiness as yours. You don't say, that's your problem. In true love, there is no statement like that. Sympathetic joy. Your joy is his joy, and his joy is your joy. And you have to be able to offer joy. The question is, in your relationship, are you able to offer joy? Or you make her cry all the time? If you make him or her cry all the time, that's not true love. The willingness to love, the willingness to make him or her happy, yes, it may be there. But the capacity to love, to make him or her happy, is not yet there. It is to be cultivated. And the fourth element is upeksha. And upeksha means non-discrimination. And this is a higher form of love. You love him, it's not because that person belongs to the same race, having the same kind of skin color, or sharing the same kind of spiritual path. It's not because of that. You love that person because that person suffers and needs your love. That's all. Non-discrimination, the path of non-discrimination. Suppose you have 4 children and you realize that all of them are your children. You don't want to prefer one over the 3 others. You practice upeksha, equanimity. You love Mr. Gary because Mr. Gary speaks for you, but you don't love Mr. Bush because Mr. Bush is doing the thing that you don't like. There is no equanimity in your love.
Just taking a pause here and maybe reflecting upon these 4 elements that he talked about. Maitri, that is friendship. Karuna, which is, he said that compassion is not the right word for karuna, although we translate it as that, compassion, because if we go to the root word, passion means to suffer. Compassion means to suffer together. But as he shared that if I have a friend and I am connecting with his or her pain, and if I begin to suffer along with her, then I would not be able to offer her any help. So for karuna, compassion is not the right word, but although we use compassion. So maitri, karuna, mudita, which is ability to be able to offer joy, to have joy in relationship. Mudita, mudit, there is a very common Indian name, mudit, that we have in boys. And then we have upeksha, which is non-discrimination, which does not mean that, okay, these are the friends from my spiritual background, so I would love them more, and these are the friends who are not resonating with my spiritual thoughts, so I will, love them less. So that's non-discrimination, that whoever I am interacting with, I am able to offer love. And I remember the first time when I heard this video, and I've heard it many times after that, I realized that I really lack a lot of love. All of us, that we really lack this sense of love. And in the name of, when we say I love you, it's mostly demands that we are asking from other person, that I love you, so you give me some appreciation, some approval, some warmth. But I am, although I feel that I am loving, I think that I am loving, but it's not love, it's just almost kind of a torture and demand. So I felt that I lack a lot of love, and this 4 elements, I keep on reminding myself about these 4 elements. And whenever I remind myself in my relationships, I am able to then step back from my demands and offer my presence, because there is no end to our demands. And we say to ourselves that I want to be 1 drop of poison less. I don't want to keep begging, because we see that all of us are begging. So can we be 1 drop of poison less? Can we be kind to the other person in relationship? Because just like I want him to understand me, he is also craving for some understanding. Can I be the one to offer that understanding? So yeah, I think just sharing that, these reflection upon these 4 elements really helps me a lot to nurture my own capacity to love in relationships. Yes, Pratima, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, actually, um, I just reflected upon this thing that when we have expectations, sometimes we don't even know that we have expectations from the person, and it is only when we reach to a point when the relation looks like a pain and it's a suffering. Like every day we're talking the same thing, and we are maybe crying, and we are maybe consoling each other, and it keeps on happening. Like when you say, when will this end? No. And then you come to a point of realization, okay, how did it actually start? So I think we sometimes we even don't know. We are just going by the lifestyle that we think is correct, and this is how the relationship should be, and we keep moving on those grounds until the pain just pops up, and you say where it is coming from. The relationship. I just said sorry. It's okay now, but it's not okay. Actually, the relation is quite. Uh, I think they are painful till the time we don't know what they are. That's it.
Yes, Dr. Anjali, you want to share?
So many things to share, but just wanted to. When I was very young, when this issue of relationship was more prominent in my life, there was a poster. Real love starts when nothing is expected in return. And I was the student who used to follow all these things, but definitely that light was not there. I could not understand, but this process was always there. And I started doing all these things, but that is a long story. After when I was introduced on Sri Aurobindo and Mothers, whatever you were saying, that remembering and offering and praying, all these things, doing all these things. And I say that expectation is difficult, but it is a continuous practice. It's not hard. If you start self-observation, if you are self-aware, and every time, instead of saying that the other person is there, you start looking inside and yourself, you get something. Whenever I attended your Aryan Spirit also, and I was following, if I rate myself on 10-point scale, where do I stand? But still, recently, I'm doing everything regarding to this equanimity, upeksha. Suppose there's a person in kinship, right? There are other persons who are related to with her or him, which I don't agree with them, or I don't like, something like that. And if I have to maintain my relationship, so I have to ignore them, in the sense that I am liking you and I love you and I offer all these things to you, but with whom you are related, I don't. So in order to maintain my peace, my equanimity, I have to ignore them. Am I right? So how this equanimity, true love and true this thing includes that? My question is here, that I'm doing everything, maybe, but you said expectation is there. Maybe I said something and that person may have was heard, and I started observing after 2 days something wrong. Then I am questioning, मैंने तो इतना किया, मैंने तो नहीं किया, ये है ये, मेरा भी तो कोई. I know that this is expectation, but at this moment the pain is there, and I'm offering it also, and I'm remembering it also. And whenever I remember offer, there's something comes like in form of your course or something written, some mother's quote reading thing, but it is difficult because you want to maintain harmony. So how to maintain this harmony in relationship, in family actually?
It's actually something that we all wish for, a harmony in relationships. All of us want that. But when you delve into Mother and Sri Aurobindo's words, he talks about that true harmony either in relationships at a family level or even globally at a world level, like harmony between nations, for example. It cannot be had if each one of us is not in touch with our divine nature.
So should not expect harmony also.
There is no shortcut. I have not come across any shortcut.
Shamla here.
Yes, yes.
Personal experience, if we want to maintain peace or harmony in family, the only thing is adjustment, compromise. Unless we compromise,
That
so I think
it's a
many
long
of
list
us
of
do that.
compromise.
Yeah, compromise. Then only some peace will be there.
So I think this is temporary peace that we need to have. Just like you were sharing that I'll have to ignore that person to have the peace within. So I think everything has a proper place, and these things also have a proper place for example, say ignoring the person for some time, since the moment you delve into that person's life or interact, the trigger is back. It happens with us, like we are pained or the suffering comes back. So it's like almost a small sapling. When you initially sow a sapling, you have to put a fence around that area, because anyone can trample over that sapling, right? But once it has become a full-fledged tree, then you can be sure, okay, now you don't have to be afraid of the trampling. Nobody can trample over it. In fact, people can go over its branches and enjoy the shade and the climbing over the tree. So I think like that, everything has a proper place, and this ignoring and not indulging ourselves in such relationships where we actually get hurt again and again, I think this has a proper place. Not to keep putting our feet in those waters which really pull us down. And in the parallel, in the meantime, what am I doing? I am actually uniting more and more myself with the true self within. So it's not that I am just being the older self. So in parallel, the sadhana is happening. I know that I have a weakness. The moment I interact with that person, some trigger happens and I am really pained, or there is no equanimity I can see. So, but I can't do anything about it at the moment. So what I do is, for the time being, I put a fence around me, and it's absolutely fine to put a fence around us. So that in the parallel, in the meantime, I am doing my inner sadhana. I'm uniting myself more and more with the divine presence within, which is a continuous long process. The more I gain stability in that, the more I will see that then the external triggers also will lose a grip over me. So I think the parallel thing has to happen. And I agree with your point that many a times we have to keep away from these triggers which pull us down, because we are not capable of handling them right now. So we have to be kind to ourselves also, and not keep on jumping in those waters which trouble us. But parallelly do the inner sadhana also, since we know that true harmony cannot be have if I am not connected with my divine. Because what happens when I am connected with my divine truly practically, then it is impossible that I am not able to see the divine in the same person, the other person outside. So I think two-edged
Mentally, it
sword.
can't be.
Mentally it can't be. We can start with even the mental thing we can start, but it has its own limitation. So the practical realization is unavoidable. We can't do without it. And that's why if we look at the 5 dreams of Sri Aurobindo, where he talks about this global harmony, he talks that this, if supramental realization, truth consciousness has to come down, only then we will have harmony in relationships, in within the country and amongst the countries. Before that, it's all cold wars and ignoring and fighting with each other. We can't do without it, because we don't understand where the other person is coming from. So it is actually a biggest social service that we can do, to unite with our inner Godhead. That's the biggest social responsibility that we have. Because the more I do that, I become empathetic to other beings and I see them as one. But not before that. Before that, as you said, it's only mentally, and mental has its own limitation, although that can be done. Yeah. Thank you.
But I must acknowledge one thing this has made clear, what you said, that my contribution is, if I am harmonious, then I am spreading that harmony in society, which I expect in my society and in whole world. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Daman, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. I could really relate to what you were just saying. For me, definitely I have expectations that destroy lots of things that could potentially be good. But also I notice for me, there's this kind of lack of personal responsibility, and that causes a lot of problems in relationships in my life. So I was just, going through that list of like joy and compassion, friendliness, and equanimity. And I don't have that very well developed within inside me, And so hearing your analogy of the sapling needs to be protected, and also not to keep jumping into, troublesome situations that are maybe, they're too big for me at my current level. So that was really helpful to just see that I am lacking in personal responsibility for my own joy. And if I don't have that in myself, then I can't really share it with other people. So I just wanted to reflect on that. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for reiterating. And I was also able to see it in my relationships that, for example, there is a certain situation, the moment I step into it, my pain comes back, suffering comes back. You know, now since these are very deep rooted, our samskaras, our patterns are very deep rooted. We don't know why we have such a strained relationship with that person. We have no idea. But it is, we see that the moment we step into that water, the pain is back. But the moment you are out of it, you're okay. It's not troubling you that much, and you can live a life which is towards higher and higher. And it's a decent life that you can live. So I had to actually just sharing what you shared them, and the thing that you reiterated, that if I am now able to recognize and be kind to myself, that since stepping in those waters gives me pain, I better not step there right now, at least for some time. And in the meantime, make myself stronger with the mother's presence, may it grow more and more in me. I think this really comes first, because then I'm also able to recognize other people, that others also may have weaknesses, and they are also allowed to step back from certain situations if it's paining them. So that's the element of karuna, compassion, as you were sharing. So that's really beautiful to address it first in ourselves, and then we can address it in others also. Yeah. Yeah. Anything anyone wants to add on? There is something by the mother I'm going to read. It's very interesting what how mother talks about. So, so again, with mother and Sri Aurobindo's philosophy, we know that what they talk of, we have a soul element within us, the true individuality, the psychic being. Then we have the instrument, vital, emotions, feelings, mental, thought, intellect, and all that. And then we have a body. So these three are our instruments for the expression of the soul consciousness. Now, most often than not, the vital part, the emotional part, that's the one which is troubling and making everything impure. It's like spoiling things, what you were sharing, that it spoils, it adds on some impure elements and it spoils pure love. So mother talks about this: all your troubles, depression, discouragement, disgust, fury, all that come from the vital. It is that which turns love into hate. It is that which induces the spirit of vengeance, bad will, the urge to destroy and to harm. Your will is like a withering plant. All resentment, disgust, fury, despair, grief, anger, all that comes from this gentleman. So I like how she, talks about it. She says that this is the Mr. Vital, Mr. Vital, and he creates all the trouble in our life, impurifies. Like if you have a one drop of pure love, it will add 10 drops of poison in that, and make it a mixture. So now what is my task? My task is, as a this light of consciousness that we are, to recognize this mixture and to purify this mixture. It is possible for us to purify this mixture. The moment there is any bad will, any disgust over another person, any disappointment in relationship, to recognize it as not our own, but an act of Mr. Vital. And one example that Dr. Ananda Reddy had used, many years ago, we have attended a workshop from him. So he used that in the absence of the soul consciousness being the king of our house, what happens is all the ministers thoughts, feelings, the body, they take over because they see that, oh, there is no king. So at times the mental will rule my opinion, my dogmas, my ideas. I am the one who is right. The minister has become the king. At times, other times, the vital will rule. It will say, you listen to me. I desire this. I expect this. So it becomes the minister, the king. It acts as a king. At other times, the body consciousness behaves like a king. Why? Because the center part is missing. The king is not there. And that's why in Sri Aurobindo's yoga, the first part is to get in touch with the king, the psychic being. That in me which knows what is true and what is beneficial. Is this skillful? Is this not skillful? Is this benefiting me in sadhana? Is this not benefiting me? Is this pulling me down? Is this not? So as in the Aryan spirit also we were discussing that being an Aryan implies effort. Every moment a vigilant effort is required. And whatever is pulling me down, I have to uproot it. And this uprooting is done again and again in God's labor. One of the sonnets of Sri Aurobindo, he talks about like this has to be, every battle fought has to be refought. Every enemy slain revives again. So it will happen that they will show up face again and again. But the good thing will be that the more we unite with our divine consciousness, the mother's consciousness, we will be able to reject it immediately. So that example which I had shared, of Champak Lalji, it was a very inspirational example where, he's covered with this dark cloud of anger. And even at that stage, when he's lived with mother for 25 years, it's not that the anger is completely gone and he's all like full of divine love. Still, that overwhelming power of anger comes. But the good thing that happens, being close to the mother's consciousness, he's able to shrug it off. Immediately, he's very light, simple, and cheerful. And that's what mother said, she gave Champak Lalji 4 things, I think. She said, be simple, be cheerful, and always stay close to me. 4, 5 things she demanded of him. How simple is that? So I think why I was talking of this example, because these examples help us in order to know that we are not alone. And these things will show up their face again and again, but we will get the courage to shrug them off. Yeah, anything anyone wants to add on? So just sharing then, in absence of anything, I'm just sharing something by the mother. Maybe it just adds on to our understanding. So something on human affection. Now all of us crave for human affection, and all around us we see Bollywood movies and even many a times Hollywood movies portraying that love is affection. So yes, anything from you, Dr. Anjali? Yeah, okay. So mother says something about human affection. Human affection is obviously unreliable because it is so much bound up with selfishness and desire. It is a flame of the ego, sometimes turbid and sometimes misty, sometimes more clear and brightly colored, sometimes tamasic based on instinct and habit, like we become habituated to somebody in our life, so that habit. Sometimes rajasic and fed by passion. We're passionate for each other, so wanting to maybe consume each other. That happens in many a times passionate relationship. Sometimes rajasic and fed by passion, or the cry of vital interchange. So having a cry of wanting an emotional bond with each other, that kind of craving. Sometimes more sattvic and trying to be or look itself disinterested. So at times one is maybe showing it that we are not really, look disinterested, but there is always an element of possession there. So then she says, but fundamentally it depends on a personal need or a return of some kind, inward or outward. And when the need is not satisfied, or the return ceases, or is it not given, it most often diminishes or dies or exists only as a troubled remnant of habit from the past, or returns to satisfaction somewhere else. This is what we see in relationships. That if you hope that being with this person will give you satisfaction and contentment, many a time we keep banging head on the wall, it doesn't happen, and then we turn to some other person. This is very common. Many a times we have back to back relationships because of this, and yet something remains unaddressed. And then she shares, the more intense it is, the more it is apt to be troubled by clashes, quarrels, egoistic disturbance of all kinds, selfishness, exactions, even hatred and ruptures. So the more we put our intensity in any relationship, any human relationship, the more we put intensity, the more it is apt to for more clashes and more trouble. Because that's not the place where we want to find our ground. We all are looking for a ground. We last time, I think towards the end, we were talking about having a groundless ground in the divine. So we want that, may this person become my ground. On this person I place my hopes. He is the one who would understand. But each person has a baggage of karma that he has to fulfill. We don't know where all he is entangled, in what relationships he is entangled, what he has to fulfill. So he has his own unfolding of life, I have my own unfolding of life. But in our ignorance we feel that like jumping on the other person will give us satisfaction. It never ever does. It leaves us so disappointed. And mother talks about that sometimes you fall so badly that your nose hurts if you place all your hopes on a person. So mother says that never ever place your hopes on any person. In the beginning, it sounds a bit disappointing for Mr. Vital, because the Vital would say, oh really, life is such misery, I can't place hopes on any person. Are you sure? Some person somewhere. But that's how it is, because since we are living in our ignorance, everybody is living in ignorance. I am also living in ignorance, the other person also. In that situation, I cannot place hopes on any person. But things will change. A time will come that we are all working from the divine consciousness and nurturing and loving and caring for each other without wanting anything in return. That time is also very close.
So difficult to love a person without expectation, without expectation in the sense that we are living with persons when we say that we love, either we can be indifferent because we know that we should not put any hope over there, but we have to live with them. So there should be some joy, some not a kind of indifference kind of situation should be there. So difficult it is really, that there should be love without any hope, without any expectation. So then there you said like human affection. I remember that.
Yeah, sorry.
I remember that filmy song "Duniya Banane Wale Kahe Ko Duniya Banai."
So Sri Aurobindo talks about this indifference that we feel when we are, say for example, earlier we were too much into each other's lives, and that was leading to a lot of clashes. And now we are beginning to respect each other's space, and so, and now I am beginning to have a new life where the only intimate relationship is with the divine within. And I'm also giving now space to other people in my life, letting them unfold their own life in their own way. In the beginning, it actually appears like indifferent and cold. And but it is only in comparison to the previous life that we have lived. But very soon, and Sri Aurobindo in some letters addresses this seemingly indifferent and cold kind of a condition, but it actually is not that cold. It's only it appears cold in comparison to the life that we have lived too much into each other. Yeah. So but slowly, as we begin used to this kind of life, which is a lot of space for each other, and yet love is there, yet whenever we interact, there is love, respect, care is there, but not too much into each other. Why? Because we don't understand the unfolding of anybody's lives. That's why too much into each other is not required. No, and yesterday I was listening to something where Dr. Alok Pandey was sharing that, see, Divine Mother, now people are living in ashram. Divine Mother can cure everybody. She has that power. But she would not interfere. To some people, she would say, okay, take this medicine. To others, she would say, okay, take this medicine and have also some faith. To some, she would actually do, her make use of her powers and, maybe get rid of the impurity within. Why would she not interfere? Because all these happenings have a purpose in each person's life. So if a person is given a difficulty or an emotional trouble, by overcoming, he gains the strength that is required for him. So if I interfere too much in anybody's life, then I am actually interfering with his unfolding of life. So it's actually a different kind of a way of life that we have to begin to live, having most intimate connection with the divine within, knowing that this very same divine dwells in all, at least mentally knowing that, and also knowing that each one has its own unfolding of life which has to be respected. So in the beginning, I agree with you. And as I said, Sri Aurobindo has addressed that on the surface, it appears cold, indifferent, and maybe what kind of a life it is. But because we are living mostly a vital kind of a life, always wanting more warmth and affection from each other. But when we begin to have warmth and affection within ourselves, then we can have this warmth and affection in all kinds of interactions. We don't need to depend on only a few interactions which have warmth and affection.
So can we say that when we start walking on this path, doing all these things, so this is mother who is giving all this situation to just to again understand one of your aspect which you were not aware of, you were hidden these things, and the situation is there, and then you handle it and then go forward.
You can say, I think there is no trouble saying that, although mother is one in with our consciousness. So mother also says, Sri Aurobindo also talks about how the soul decides to have certain experiences. In the previous life, the soul may have a very luxurious life, and a kingly experience. But in this life, it wants just an opposite experience, so it takes life as a beggar. So it's the soul which is choosing the situation and the people around in order to have, as you said, certain experiences, and in order to transcend those limitations and have greater and greater strength and move towards light. Because it's like, you have to touch all the aspects. So if in the previous life I have been in a relationship, now this time I want a life which is more in solitude. So extremely opposite kind of an experience. Why? Because I want to have experience
This kind
of,
of experience.
yeah. And having these experiences, it makes the psychic being more mature and ripen.
This I understand. Truly
Yeah,
agree with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Because when you see your life, then each incident you understand, try to understand, and you think that okay, this was there, then you handle it by the grace of mother, then again, and since you were there, so this situation is again, that is very clear. I mean, by mother's grace, it's clear that things are for you to understand, for you to evolve. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anjali. Anyone wants to add on anything, any sharing or question? So just finishing that paragraph that I was reading, Mother says the true reliability, again talking of human affection and relationships, the true reliability is there only when the psychic element in human affection becomes strong enough to color or dominate the rest. So the spiritual path is one. The spiritual aspirations are one. Now we see why we have so many clashes and lack of love in our own blood relations and relatives. Because our spiritual aspirations most of the times are not matching. You would see when mother was bringing up the ashram and there were devotees in the ashram, she was trying to bring a higher consciousness in each one of them. She would actually refuse many people to go back to their families. There is a purpose to that. Even to children who were in the ashram school, she would say at one point of time, I've read that she would say that I don't want to give much holidays where children go back to their parents, because the moment they go back and when they are back in the ashram school, I see such a drastic change in their consciousness. Whatever work I had done, it's like been undone. Why? Because from our parents' sides, we are carrying a lot of atavisms, distortions. So it is good, on one hand, again, it can be talked about in several respects. One hand, we say that these are my karmic relations, I should keep put with them and try to work with my sadhana, being in those relations. On the other hand, you would see that you are making the task more difficult for you. We don't need to do that. And if you, as Dr. Anjali was sharing in the beginning, if I need to put a fence around me while I am doing the sadhana, making myself stronger, one must put a fence around us. It is no point jumping into those celebrations and those entanglements which actually all the time pull you down in the name of family and relations. One has to begin to take a stand so that you become actually benefiting also to yourself and to others. Now the more you connect with your true consciousness, you are able to benefit the others, no, even in the family you are able to benefit, but you are of no use when you yourself are entangled. So I have found it very beneficial, which I've practiced in my own life, maybe that was my path, to stay away from the nitty gritty of family entanglements, to choose not to step into the drainy waters. But whenever the requirement is there for a true interaction, one is always available. It's not that you have cut off the ties. It's just that you are not engaging in the trivialities and the entanglements of those relationships. Not yourself letting yourself pull down. And in the parallel, you do your sadhana so that you become more beneficial to yourself and to the others whenever you interact. Yeah. Yeah. Pratima, you wanted to add on?
Yeah, actually, the way things are going, or I would say that I actually keep silent when I don't feel like, because when I'm like, trying to understand what is going on, then I like be silent, and then probably I make some notes and things. So in the house, the others are not very receptive to the fact that I'm not talking. So because uh, the kind of chats they have in home, it's not something which is very encouraging. I don't feel like talking, the chats happening there, I don't want to get into those. So what happens is, like, after a month or maybe couple of weeks, they come up, why you're not talking, you're only not talking to us, were you attending sessions? And so this is how it works. And then I don't have the right mindset to answer them, because this is something going inside, and I'm still not, as you said, that the fence is, this is how I draw my fence, that I don't talk. So I only talk to the people from the satsang, or that actually gives me a nice feeling. So, but they are not able to understand the others. So I don't know how, because they're repetitive situations, like we talk and it end up we hug each other, then again it comes up after 2 weeks because I again and again jump into the same situation. I don't feel like talking. So it is giving me hard time. I know the churning would, help. But yeah, sometimes I feel like communicating, let's try and communicate. But the other frequency is not that they can understand what you're saying, no. So, um, so the communication doesn't come up to the same level. And for that reasons, I really want to just, just rather stay away from those communication and even the stances that happen. So anything on that would be helpful.
Yeah, I
How to
feel that it's only a passing phase. I'm sure about it, that it's only a passing phase, because as we were talking about fencing and strengthening the inner sadhana, it is impossible that slowly a greater and a deeper understanding does not come if anything true has happened. If any true sadhana has happened in the meantime, it is impossible that we still remain cold and indifferent. Although we can't compare it to the earlier way of sentimentality and just engaging in conversations for the sake of it. We can't go there back again. But there will be love and understanding in relationships, a deeper and a greater bond. So right now you are wanting, see what happens. I am at a different plane. I am trying to understand my life and more into delving into my own self and understanding things from that perspective. Maybe the other people are not there, let's say, but there may be somewhere a thought in my mind. Maybe I am on a higher plane and they more on material. You can't avoid this thought, this is there. The only thing is that to know that this thought is there and to know that this thought is not true. This is just a figment of my imagination. And then slowly, when we grow in our thought free stillness, not believe in our my ideas of spirituality or life, then we see that we are able to honor any fellow, no matter whether he is more in material domain or any other domain. We are able to honor and respect. So that honor, respect, and love and care without any want from them, it is unavoidable if you are on the right path. Unavoidable. So you may speak less, of course, and it's good to speak less, because why to speak those words which are harming each other? So it's good to speak less, and it's okay for them also to go through that discomfort, because the person is changing. Now they are not used to seeing you like that. So it's just because an old habit is dying that they have the discomfort, which is okay. It's an auspicious discomfort. But the more one is able to have a loving presence around them, even when they resonate with your spiritual thoughts or not, it doesn't matter. It is secondary. So then we begin to honor. Now I am trying them to understand me. Now slowly, as I grow in myself, actually I will be able to understand their point of view more and more, because each one is craving for that unconditional love and acceptance, each one. But in our ignorance we don't know how to get it. So that person is also there, where we are. So when we are in the same boat, so we have this mutual recognition that, brother, I understand where you are, and I am not going to be that one drop of poison. I'm not going to add on to it. I'm not going to add on to your misery. So how can I help you? How can I help you? So that's what I feel, that this is just a passing phase, and the more we grow into it, it's impossible that the love from inside does not spill into the outside. Impossible. Yeah. Yes, please unmute yourself, Dr. Anjali.
Yeah, what you said is absolutely right. First, you have to work on yourself. Then you have some clarity. And then all those problems or complaints which we were having with others, then we try to we start understanding their viewpoint. So the thing which comes is, they, instead of saying that I am on different level and they are on different level, this is a kind of a spiritual superiority we are expressing on them, that you are in materialistic this thing and I am not. Instead of this, it happens that everybody has its own liking and disliking. So if we start respecting their viewpoint without being interfering in their affair. As you said, I don't mingle with them. I know that this is I can't take interest in all these things. But when I'm there, these types of talks are there. So very politely and very simply, I can say, I don't remember because I was not interested in that. So I can express that I am not interested in all these things, as well as I am with you and I love you and I like, but I'm sorry, I'm not this type of person, so I'm not taking interest. So that creates a kind of balance also. And it does not sense our love and in mutual relationship and family relationship. So reacting to Pratima's this thing, that instead of not talking, we can talk very politely, very this thing, taking their affair, how are you, things like that. And without this kind of a complaint that you don't, because that expectation is there, that through what phase I'm going through, my near and dear ones should understand it. And actually, this is this complaint due to which we don't want to talk to them. So if we start understanding this, then communication will start taking place and it will be smoother. That is the one thing which I have experienced, so I can give it to Pratima.
Thank you. Yes. So, anything from Reshmi, Ritu, Tripti ji, and Shamla or Damien, all of us who have been listening very patiently? Anything that you want to share? Okay. So, in that case, we can maybe wind up now. And also, I think purifying our intentions again and again, because we see that our intentions are not really truly pure because of our past patterns and samskaras. So, working on ourselves through all the external triggers that we get. And it is good that these external triggers are kept very close to us in our families, because they are the test of my purification. And there would come a stage when the trigger may be there, but the ill will inside me will not be there. Or at least if the ill will is arising, then I'm able to recognize it as ill will and to discard it completely and to remain with mother's consciousness. That time has to come. It's very, very urgent. Very urgent. Only then we can actually benefit ourselves and others around. So maybe, yes, absolutely. Faith is the cornerstone on the journey. Yes. So having the faith that each one of us, we are no matter how drenched in ignorance right now, but as in prayers and meditations, Mother shares that I may be drenched in ignorance, but you, the Lord, the all powerful Master, you are there. So there is a certainty that things will change towards light every moment.
Please share this prayer.
Yeah, I can share this. Yeah, I'll have to find this, but I'll maybe put it and share with Pratima, and yeah, she can forward. Yeah, I think you are on the Aryan group, Dr.
Yes,
Ranjit, right?
yes.
So I'll share it there.
Actually, I could not actively participate due to all these responsibilities which I was taking in family. But I thought that I will join it because after that I will have I was paying my duty in hospital and all these things, but I was joining that.
Okay. So I'll share it on the Aryan group. And in prayers and meditations, there are many, many prayers where Mother shares that I may be incapable, but you who are there, oh Lord.
I have this small one,
Prayers
prayers and meditations.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know which exactly is the prayer that I'm talking of. Great. So knowing
And
again in others
it
also.
will be available in Incarnate Word.
It will be available, and I can send you a PDF.
Okay, okay.
I can
Please,
send you.
please.
Yes, yes. In English, there is a PDF of Mother's prayers and meditations. I can send you.
Thank
Each
you so
prayer
much.
is very beautiful, and it's just showing us the path that being drenched in ignorance, how we are. But we don't have to, as you said, lose faith. We know that all powerful, omnipotent presence is there with us all the time. And if I feel helpless, Mother is not helpless, and Mother is going
Correct.
to take me forward. So, and that is true for each one of us, whether enemy or a friend to us.
Right.
So, just taking this last, yeah, Shamlaji, anything from you?
Yeah, regarding these prayers and meditations, I just wanted to share that I have the book. Long back, I bought it, but I never started it. After our sessions, I started, and daily I'm reading one. Randomly, I'm picking and reading one, and they're really so wonderful. I mean, the words, I'm just drenched is the correct word, maybe again. Words are so beautiful, and I'm really surprised to see how Mother has surrendered to Lord. I mean, the way she expresses the love towards the Lord is absolutely, I mean, unimaginable. And that's what I just wanted to share. I'm really enjoying those things. I mean, prayers daily, only one I'm reading, so it's really wonderful. I just wanted to share.
Absolutely, totally resonate, and
Yeah.
through these prayers and meditations, actually, Mother has shown us the path of sadhana.
Yes, yes. How
That
to
each
actually,
one will keep on falling in ignorance. There will be acts, even in some of the prayers, she shares that whenever I do any act which is not consecrated to the divine, I feel a pang in my heart.
yes,
This happens with us also, whenever we
yes,
follow any selfish demand, any agenda, manipulative ill will that we have followed, immediately we feel repentance that why did I do that? And Mother says, but then I go for inspiration within myself, and I ask for the error to be corrected, and I delve and plunge into thee for solace and divine protection. So that's the ultimate. And as I totally resonate with you, that each prayer is showing us the path towards greater and greater light. Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just taking last moment, if we can, maybe just sharing the merit from these discussions, reflections with all the sentient beings. May all of us grow towards greater and greater light. May all of us have the courage to leave and transform falsehood to greater and greater light and wisdom. Thank you, everyone. I think this is the origination of this prayer, very famous, which we used to read in our schools also. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya.
Jyotirgamaya.
Yeah.
Mrityurma Amritangamaya.
Mrityurma amrita. Yeah.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
In fact, this
Thank
works
you.
very good if sometimes you are not able to understand what is happening, and you know that there's something, darkness is there in you, but you are not able to understand yourself. The moment you pray this, and you will have something inside you, and that guidance is always there.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and happy practice to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.